It's Tuesday, September 12th. This is an end of the day SPY recap. There's actually about 5 minutes to go in trading, but I assume it'll end up kind of what it looks like now. And there's a lot of little things to go over here in terms of what's unfolding in the market. First of all, today we end up with a 2-down red day. So, we kind of held the midpoint of the prior day, essentially, took out yesterday's low. And we're closing a little bit to the red side. Just like yesterday, we kind of closed a little bit to the green side. We're maybe anticipating price to head up given that close, but I'll show you in a second. There was just no buy signals at all today, given the way I interpret structure. We also discussed how these 3 bars were broadening action of this bar. So it was the actionable signal was really to the downside today, although, you just had to wait and see how things opened. If we continued higher, then maybe we were going to start trying to get out of this weekly inside bar. And that's really still the theme going on here. That's why I'll show you in a second when I look at the structure of the day, why things are a little bit tricky. It's not really tough to interpret with price action, but it's tricky in terms of opportunities at the moment in the indexes because we have the inside week here. We don't know if it's going to break out higher or lower. As I've discussed on other recaps, we don't know even if we try to break out if that's going to continue or fail. You can go up and fail. We can try to come down and fail back to the upside. So we're inside here, and that's what's really unfolding. Also, I guess we have that CPI number tomorrow. Maybe that's why the market also is not ready to do anything today. But in terms of today and what really unfolded, again, not so much that it was great opportunities, but it was kind of easy to at least interpret price action the way I look at it on the 15-minute chart. So first of all, you had the pre-market range between the blue lines, and you're opening up after this, bar yesterday that kind of closed near the highs. You're kind of gapping down, almost near the bottom of the range. So you're not really starting above the midpoint of that and heading higher in any kind of way. The first bar even went up a little bit from here, but then paused for 2 bars. So at that point, there's no buy signal above the first bar high, even if you thought it might be heading up to yesterday's high. Certainly wasn't above the pre-market high, so there's nothing to buy. If anything, there was a sell signal right here to try to get short because you're anticipating, these 2 bars are holding inside, you're coming lower, at least you'll take out, it looks like the breakdown here is going to take out the first bar low and the intraday low. And quite frankly, that sets up a 2-down day on the daily chart as well. And that, you have all kinds of targets below. And if you just broadened out with 3 bars to the upside, 2 down, that's your actionable signal to maybe go a lot lower. And I actually bought puts here. Well, I'll show you in a second. What I did was I bought puts, and then I tried to scale out to set up an overtrade trade. I didn't get filled, and I had to break even. And I'll show you why essentially you're looking to break even on that trade pretty quickly. I guess I'll show. What I did was at the time I bought the 450 puts at 509. I was trying to scale out at 575. I didn't get filled, and then I had to exit at 512, break even. So what you're doing here is when you buy the puts, you're expecting that follow through lower. I was trying to scale out. It didn't do it. And then it kind of came, and the key was you were going to take out the pre-market lows here. And then at that point, you either had to continue, either fail and come back up, or you were going to continue lower. And you can see you had that pause bar here on bar number 5, it looks like. Then you started lower. There's where you're trying to scale out. And then boom, it just paused. 2 inside bars, failed, 1 inside bar, then started up. So right here, if you got short here, you kind of had to break even because you were failing to move, but you were just taking out some liquidity down here. Now, in terms of what unfolded next, all right, you didn't know at this point it was going to come out and take out the first bar high, but once it kind of had a strong rally up here and was just pausing, at this point, at least price action-wise, not saying to go long, but you kind of suspected, all right, you're not getting an orderly little pullback and then another push lower. You're getting a move way beyond the midpoint of the first bar, and then at that point you're kind of expecting this area to be taken out. So that was the logic here anyway. Then it comes up, it takes that out, and what happens? You get a big failure bar here, and the bias on the day is still to the downside. You're still kind of below the midpoint of the prior day. You have a 2-down day, which unfolded earlier, so you're still holding that 2-down day. The only way I would have really looked to even buy is if when I see these kind of moves that are very choppy intraday, and it takes out the first bar high, if it came up here and had an orderly pause of some point, just like, I was looking, well, here was a kind of a pause that to me said we're going higher. If we would have paused in here and continued lower, that would have been the sign we were continuing much lower. So here, if we came up and took out this high and then just paused, I would have expected us to make another push up to take out the pre-market high and yesterday's high. But instead, you got the big failure bar. And again, that was almost a sign for an aggressive short. You came back below the first bar high and everything else, and then of course you come down and take out the lows of the day. And again, you're in line with the the 2 down day. That's why the bias was always to the downside. So you're looking for opportunities to trade. This was just a classic example of what algorithms do. I mean, they even either they're going to move directionally strong, to start the session, or if not, then a lot of times they're taking out liquidity before they move lower. And this was just a classic example of little higher highs back to lower lows in line with the 2 down day that was kind of triggered here. So just showing you that's kind of what the logic was on the day. We have a 2 down day now. We have that CPI number tomorrow. So I still see us, actionable. Today was the actionable signal. It didn't quite follow through its target, but I still think we can, as long as we hold the midpoint of this bar, we can continue lower and start taking out some targets down here. We'll see if price action wants to do that. I guess if it fails to reach this first target, this low right here, and then goes up tomorrow after the CPI, then you kind of had a 2 down that failed to reach its target. We get above, again, that yellow line. I discussed this yesterday. That's the open of the week. So as long as you're below there, that's another reason you were biased to the downside all day today. You never got really, once you failed up there, you came back below that line. If we can get up above that line, then the weekly chart, at least for the moment's green, and we can kind of expect maybe to head higher here. But again, it's very tricky given this inside price action, and maybe we're just waiting on some of those economic numbers before making things clear. But the bottom line was, it was a good opportunity to go short, in my opinion. I really thought there'd be a strong move down, to reach a target down here, and it didn't unfold that way. Although the bias ended up down anyway, it just did it in a choppy fashion. So the short was the only way to be thinking today. For risk management, break even, and then there were other good trades out there actually. I actually bought some Netflix puts at the end of the day instead of the SPY put, so that worked out. And we'll just see if after the economic number where things go tomorrow. But again, I'd be comfortable playing continuation to the downside if that's where price action leads us. And if we really fail down here and start up, then, I'll give it, I'm just going to keep trying to, go wherever price action leads relative to breaking out of this inside bar. And that's why, things could get a little tricky. And that's why you got to be a little bit nimble with some of these trades if you don't get immediate follow through.